Wade and Wade Reacts.
We got another highly requested reaction for this channel. This is Kakarot's 5 Gundams you would want to pilot.
A while back, I made a video on 5 Gundams that you wouldn't want to pilot as an average person. This then of course led to the question, which Gundams would you want to pilot as an average person? So just in case you got isekai'd into a Gundam series, here's 5 Gundams that you might want to consider. And as always, I did try to come up with different reasons for all of them. So for my first pick, I wanted a Gundam with heavy armor, heavy weapons, and the ability to actually sustain that firepower.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And the answer that just kept coming back was the Heavyarms, or any of its variations. With the famous Gundanium alloy, this machine can take plenty of punishment from just about anything. And with guns and missiles literally all over its body, you'll be guaranteed a lengthy firing session. While Troa and Hero were able to use their skills to make the Heavyarms look much more nimble than it actually was, and even use it in close combat, for the average person, it'll suffice to just park your Heavyarms somewhere and unleash a hail of bullets onto the enemy.
That would be perfect.
If you fire enough, you'll eventually hit something.
Yeah, as an average person,
just go with
you
more.
You wouldn't want to get up close and personal with your opponent. Oh yeah. Plus, like you said, it's well armored too.
Next up, we have the Strike Rouge.
That's what I would look for.
A mostly identical version of the regular Strike Gundam, but it's that mostly that's very important here. The most well-known difference was that the machine's phase-shift armor was now reddish because of a power extender. This meant that not only you had more phase-shift armor protecting you from physical attacks, but it also meant that you could fire more shots with your beam rifle, or the Agni if you're gonna go with the Launcher Strike Rouge, which might not be a bad idea either, because then you can just hang back and fire. But there's also a second difference.
That's what I would like, to be in the cut, just firing off.
For the average person. The Strike Rouge's computer has a built-in AI support system to get new pilots up to speed. You'll still have to take care though, because this AI system isn't all powerful. Even with the system in place, it still didn't allow Kigali, who was able to fly a Skygrasper, to use the extremely difficult IWSP Striker path. So my recommendation is, go for the L Striker if you're feeling confident, or go for the Launcher Striker if you want to be sure. Also,
I would take the Launcher then.
Why this wasn't used on other Orc machines.
Choice.
Or at least it wasn't mentioned that they were actually using it. They could have really used this in the first half of Gundam Seed Destiny. Now, there was another person in the Gundam Seed universe that also had an AI assisting him, but the system works a bit differently. Logil's AI, simply known as 8, did help him with piloting the red frame.
That's one of my favorite suits from Gundam Seed.
Control of it, but rather than being hardwired into the suit, it was a handy briefcase that could interface with any mobile suit that it was in. So while it was definitely superior to the Rouge's AI, it doesn't really fit with the topic of this video. But hey, if you do end up in the Gundam Seed universe, stealing that briefcase might not be a bad idea. So what if there was simply an easier way to pilot a mobile suit? Introducing the Shining Gundam from G Gundam. The first and most obvious thing here is the mobile trace system. Rather than joysticks and buttons, you simply control the Gundam to what is essentially a space-age motion capture suit that's filled with nanomachines.
That would probably be best for the average person. Seems like it would be a simpler Gundam to operate. Or then again, maybe not. But if you're a martial artist and a marksman, that would come in handy. Because like he said, it's basically motion capture.
Now, while this all sounds fine and dandy, and most importantly, pretty easy because the Gundam just does what you do, it wouldn't be a Gundam system without a catch. The process of getting into the suit can potentially be quite dangerous. However,
forgot about that part.
It's never explicitly stated how dangerous. Other than the superhuman Gundam fighters, we only know that it's too much to handle for a chubby 10-year-old kid, and that Rain, who is a normal scientist, could handle it, albeit with some issues.
Which were?
This is tight.
Some people say that she was in pain, but I'm not sure. And in the absolute worst case scenario where you cannot handle the suit being put on, you can always get someone to turn off the system and you should be fine. There is one more issue with the system though, and that is that you directly feel all of the damage being done to the
Oh,
Gundam.
that's crazy.
But
For what?
again, we don't really
Why would
get a good
anybody
feel
make
for
a suit like
how
that?
this scales. So chances are you'll be fine, it's just gonna hurt a lot. And now you might be wondering
I'm
why
cool.
I picked the Shining Gundam and not a more powerful unit
Yeah, I'll
like
leave
the
that
God
alone.
Gundam. Well, should the mobile trace system
threw that
be too
windmill
much for
mobile
you
suit in
because
there.
of what I just mentioned, the Rising Gundam also has an autopilot system that still seem to allow some kind of user input through special gloves. And the only catch here is that this system is weaker than just the normal method of controlling it through the mobile trace system. And there is yet another kind of uncertain thing here that I have to mention. While we do see that most, if not all, of the Gundams in G Gundam have some kind of autopilot capabilities, the Shining Gundam is the only one that I remember that had this kind of glove input system in combination with it. But if all Gundams have it as a standard feature, forget about the Shining Gundam and go for the all-powerful Nether Gundam. They'll never find you in windmill mode. But before we go on, a quick intermission by editing Kakarot. The Bold Gundam also has this kind of system, and it even works with a remote. So it does seem to be a general thing. I'll take one remote-controlled God Gundam, please. And talking
Me
about
too.
autopilots, we have
That'd be the
the
safest one to
Exes
operate.
Gundam, or the extraordinary superior Gundam in full. This thing literally takes everything to the max. It's got superior
can
armor
tell.
made out of Gundarium Gamma alloy, and even houses its own I-field generator to deflect
That's pretty
beams. It's got superior speed, and it's got an extraordinarily superior amount of weapons. 8 Vulcan guns, 6 beam cannons, a beam smart gun, 1 normal income unit, 2 reflector income units, and 2 beam sabers. This thing can
I
take
think the average
out
person would be
anything,
overwhelmed with all the
anytime,
weapons options.
Anywhere, as long as it's in space. So as a rookie, you can just rely on your armor and your eye field to soak up all of the damage while you literally shoot everything into oblivion.
The
And you might be
extra
thinking,
protection
isn't this
definitely
kinda the same idea
would come
as
in
the
handy.
first unit on this list. And
But you better hope
yes,
you're not as bad
kinda,
at piloting
but
a
there is
Gundam as those
one
kids
big
were in
difference here.
what's the movie
and
called?
Another small difference.
Thunderbolt.
So the big
in the first
difference
one.
is the AI system known as Alice, which will get a dedicated video later on, but in short, it's a self-learning system that develops along with the pilot.
Okay.
And once enough
That would
experience
definitely-
has been gathered, she can take over certain functions of the mobile suit and eventually even just pilot the whole thing herself.
That might be the
so
best
flying
option
the
on the
Exes
list.
Gundam will actually
think so,
become
too. That would certainly
easier
come in
over
handy.
time. And then the small difference that I mentioned is the pilot. Now, I'm sure that many people have varying opinions on the skill level of certain Gundam pilots. But I think that Ryo Roots, the pilot of the Exes Gundam, is the only Gundam pilot that is canonically a shit pilot. And all of the aces that the Exes Gundam shot down weren't actually him, but Alice. And the best of all is, Alice didn't actually have any real negative side effects, unlike most Universal Century systems, which had a tendency to cause irreversible brain damage, mental
that's
damage,
crazy.
straight up absorb the pilot, and many other nasty things you don't want to have happen to you. So it quite literally is one of the best systems you can have installed in your mobile suit, especially once you get to the point where you can just completely take over control of the mobile suit.
Yeah, that would
So
be my
while you
go-to
might
right
not be
there.
completely
Has
in
barely any
control
drawbacks.
anymore, it is probably
superior
the
armor
safest
and
Gundam you can be
A lot
in
of options
as an
to
average
choose
person.
from weapons-wise.
But I hear you. You still want to have full control of the Gundam that you're piloting, even though you're just the average Joe. So finally, we have the Gundam frames from Iron-Blooded Orphans, with one important caveat.
Yeah.
It has to be during the Calamity War. The important thing for this video is that all of the Gundam frames were equipped with the Alaya Vinyana system. In short, this system directly connected the pilot to the Gundam and made it so that even an inexperienced pilot could pilot the Gundam without even reading the instruction
not pilot
manual.
that one.
And if you already
Last time
were
I
an
saw
experienced pilot,
the
it
pilots
would turn
of
you
those
into
mobile
an
suits
even
were bleeding
better pilot. But
because
of
of the
course,
stress the suit put on
there's a
their brains,
catch.
I guess.
There's always a catch. In order to be able to use the Alaya Vinyana system, you first have to undergo an operation. And the more operations you undergo, the better your link with the system becomes. And this is why I said that you'd preferably want to do this during the Calamity War. As unappealing as this time sounds, during this time, the operation wasn't any more risky than any other routine operation. But by the time of the Iron-Blooded Orphans anime, the technology to correctly carry out this operation had been purposefully destroyed, and the operation had now become extremely dangerous, often crippling or even killing those who underwent it.
That's not a suit I would want to operate as an average Joe.
To do the operation on the
I want a suit that has the least
making it
drawbacks.
quite impossible to do this on the average person. One thing that might scare you about using the system was seeing how Mikazuki began to lose his bodily functions because he was pushing the system to its limits.
Yeah, that's
But it was this
that's
last
crazy
part
work
that was
right there. That's
actually
no
very
good.
important. It was Mikazuki making a conscious decision to
Look at
remove
that.
the safety limiters and increase the Barbatos's performance at the cost of those bodily functions. But seriously, don't touch those limiters. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
exactly.
何やってんだなんでこいつを先に届けるんだろ俺が乗ってってやろうってよおい待て
本当に大丈夫？
俺だってシミュレーションはこなしてんだただ運ぶくらいうわダメだバカ野郎バルバトスの荒屋敷は三日月用に限界までリミッターを外してるんだおめえじゃ情報が耐えられるわけねえだろうが
I don't think anybody should be using those suits, especially not the
All of
average
this
Joe.
is why these
Seems like you
Gundams
can
were
die
my
just
number
attempting
one
to
pick.
pilot that suit.
Yes, it requires an operation, but it literally turns any random person into a Gundam pilot without any adverse effects unless you choose to do so. And personally, I would rather lose control of a limb than lose control of my life. So those are my 5 picks for Gundams that you'd want to pilot as an average person.
Kakarot chose a good list of Gundams for the average person to pilot. Seems like some of these particular Gundams would be easy for an average person to gain control of, but there were a couple of them that I would not operate. I would put those on a list of Gundams you should never operate, but the 2 that I would operate on this particular list are the Heavyarms Gundam and the EXS Gundam. Those would be the 2 I would choose.
Yeah, I like the fourth one on the list, whichever one that was called. That would be the only one on this list that I would pilot. And then if I was actually in the Gundam universe, I got S-Sky, like he said, and popped up in one of the universes, I'd probably do the full armor Gundam from Thunderbolt. I like to fly that. And then the other one from Stardust Memory. Yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, those would be the 2 I would like to operate, and possibly the Strike Freedom. I think that would be more difficult for the average person to pilot, but I would like to try to get a hang of that suit. And like he said, steal the Red Frames AI and plug it into the Strike Freedom. That would be the perfect combination. That does it for our reaction to this subscriber request. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section. Also, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you'll never miss a video from Wade and Wade Reacts.
And we're out of here.
Peace.